And in today's session, we will pick up, as usual, an article from the Hindu. And before we begin, let me quickly show you the source. Right, it is today's newspaper. All of you know that the Hindu, the Sunday edition, does not have an editorial article, but there are many, articles which are there, in the magazine also. What I've picked today is from the Science and Technology page, right? And slightly longish passage, but more importantly, what is very important and interesting is that this passage will typically contain a scientist's point of view. I mean, in the sense that if you look at the arguments presented, right, you will see how normally research papers are written, right? And by the way, this kind of a style is quite important and quite relevant to CAT, because in many cases you will see that at least one of the passages will be from science and technology research based piece, right? So let's pick up the passage and see, right? So there are some of you who are live. I hope all of you can see and hear me clearly. As I was telling you, what is the reason why have we picked up science and technology? Because the style of writing, it comes in CAT, right? Once in a while, once in a while nahi, almost every time at least one passage is from a science or a research based style, right? So that style of writing definitely helps, right? In the end, there are some questions also. We will try that. The questions are based on the passage, of course. Okay, right. So this is the first slide. And notice the arguments, right? I would like you to notice what actually is the author committed to. Does he say something clearly, right? Does he say something with 100% surety, or does he deny something with 100% surety, or is he 80-90% sure but still open to opinions, right? So look for all these things, right, as we read. Let's see. Right. Straight away here you will find in the first page, there is in the first paragraph, there is this line, infection naive individuals. This is a very, uh, technical, not technical, if not technical, this is basically, context based. Infection naive individuals. Who are infection naive individuals? Infection naive individuals are, people who have not been infected, right? Naive comes with the sense of new, lacking in experience, right? So infection naive basically means जिनको अभी तक infection नहीं हुआ है, ठीक है? And what do you see? So what does it say? What does the first paragraph about? Those who have had infection and who have been fully vaccinated, right? So he is telling you about, combination of natural infection with a single dose of vaccine provides greater immunity than either natural infection without vaccination or fully vaccination in infection naive individuals. In short, what is telling you is that, natural infection with a single dose of vaccine provides probably greater immunity, right? So without, so if, in the sense that if somebody has been ill with the disease, right, and after that he is given up, shot of vaccine, it provides probably, better protection, right? Now here you will find that people who have not been infected but fully vaccinated, right? The problem with them is that the antibodies show a decline over a period of 3 to 7 months, right? But the decline was much less in people, in vaccinated people with prior infection. So those people who were infected earlier and who got vaccinated later on, right? इनकी antibodies decline कम होता है, right? People who have been vaccinated but who were not infected, they had probably less decline. They had, more decline. ठीक है, everybody is reading it. ठीक है, right? So he is telling you about the results of the study. What about the next paragraph? What do we see in the next paragraph? 500 healthcare workers, right? So this is basically, he is telling you, is quoting with the source of the, you know वैष्णवी, बूस्टर डिक्लाइन नहीं, बूस्टर की बात नहीं है. इट इज नॉट अबाउट बूस्टर. बी वेरी केयरफुल. What is he telling you? Is telling you that a study has shown that somebody who has been ill with COVID-19, उसके बाद जब उसको वैक्सीन दिया गया, राइट, तो that person is more protected than somebody who has been given double dose but without previous infection. Right. So, and he's telling you that there's a decline in the antibodies. Right. If you are fully vaccinated, but earlier if you're not infected, the antibodies decline. So it is not about, it's not about booster. It's basically the decline in the antibodies. Booster का मतलब कुछ और होता है. Okay, right. And in the second paragraph, he's telling you about the source of his, he's giving you more about the study, right? So 500 healthcare workers with or without infection or vaccinated, those with hybrid immunity. What is hybrid immunity? Natural immunity from infection combined with vaccine infection. ठीक है, vaccine immunity, right? So those with this hybrid immunity, मतलब immunity because of infection as well as vaccination, so they had a higher and more durable neutralizing antibody response. The hybrid immunity offers strong protection than just infection or fully vaccination alone, right? So I hope you're getting it. Hybrid immunity, he calls it hybrid immunity, right? So if you have been infected earlier, right, and if you become vaccinated later on, it is called hybrid immunity, and that is greater than the other two types of immunity. Okay. What are the other two types of immunity? One immunity is full vaccination, another one is because of infection. Okay, everybody is clear, right? So Aditya, yes, more or less, why here what is telling you is that the immunity provided by hybrid as in infection as well as vaccination, is stronger than infection alone or vaccination alone. Okay, so that is what is the first paragraph, right? So this is like typical science, research based paragraph, right? Now notice, does the author say with 100% surety, yeah, is he quoting research and saying it? He is actually quoting research. He is actually quoting research papers, right? He is not actually saying it 100%. Let's see next slide kya hai. Right. Now, the study posted in the preprint server MedRiv. This is basically MedRiv. This is nothing else but the name of the journal. Right. Yeah, I should have started with the capital S. Right. Preprint का मतलब है it has not been reviewed by peers. देखो एक something which I don't know whether you know about this practice. It's given here. Preprints are yet to be peer reviewed. See, in any scientific, publication, before being published, it is reviewed by peers meaning people of your contemporaries, people who are of your same background, right? So it's yet to be peer reviewed, right? So that is the only, so the study is initial stages. It has not been reviewed, right? But it is found that in 500 healthcare workers, the neutralizing antibodies were twofold, right? So this is telling you the details. The antibodies were twice in people who had vaccine of Pfizer, right, compared to people immunized with Pfizer but with no infection, right. Then he is telling you in the next paragraph, just read it for some time and look at it. So he is also looking at the, now pehle what was he telling you? Combined effects of vaccination and infection. Now he is telling you which vaccine. Okay, so he is comparing the results of Pfizer and AstraZeneca combined with infection. Okay, everybody is reading it, I hope, all clear. So Pfizer, twofold, antibodies, and with AstraZeneca it is 3 times, right? And of course, it is basically when combined with infection, as in if it is prior infection. Right. So if you notice, he's telling you that the history, in fact, the entire evidence, the history of this evidences is that it was there even in end April. The results posted in the preprint server found that vaccination led to increased levels of neutralizing antibodies against variants, right? So it is not just antibodies against a normal disease, variants से भी produce help करते हैं. ठीक है, right? Everybody has read the slide. I hope everybody is clear, right? So what is he, I hope all of you understand, he is telling you, right, he is comparing, the immunity which we get from infection, vaccination, or infection and vaccination combined, right? In the second slide, he is telling you about what medicine you are vaccinated with also matters, right? So that is what he's telling you, right? And he's telling you that this provides this hybrid immunity, it provides protection against variants also. Okay, everybody has read it, I hope. Right, so there are many strands of thought which are to be understood. If you are clear about it, we will move on to the next slide. All clear, I hope everybody is clear. Right, in fact, he is telling you the same point but going deeper into it. Yeah, if you have read this slide, this paragraph, there is one more point that comes up. Dekho, and there was an earlier study that was posted on August 25, right? What did it find? It what was the finding? That vaccine induced immunity, right? Natural immunity, if from two doses, found that compared with vaccine induced immunity, natural immunity is longer and lasting. So there are three things, right? One is natural immunity, one is vaccine induced immunity, the other one is combined immunity. Combined immunity is, it provides the highest level of protection. Here he is telling you, within the lower two, what they call, immunities, right? Vaccine induced immunity is lower than natural immunity. So natural immunity is longer lasting and stronger protection against infection, right? Even in Delta variant. But of the three, the greatest protection is given by, is the greatest protection is given by hybrid immunity. ठीक है. Vicky, 4 p.m. session, that was only yesterday, it will not be there today, right? Okay, so everybody is clear about this. So it's like he is giving you, he's telling you about the same strand of thought but with small additions. Right. So in this paragraph, he tells you, right, whatever we have spoken about. So in short, hybrid immunity from not natural infection followed by vaccination provided superior immunity than either natural infection alone or full vaccination. Right. So this is the finding so far. Right. So, and one more thing which I would like you to notice is the author, is he supportive, is he against, or is he writing in a neutral tone, neutral or objective tone? So Vicky, those who are infected and survived, right, they are lucky provided they get at least one dose later on, right? So it provides them probably greater immunity. Right. So author's tone is neutral, right? He is not committed 100%, nor is he against something 100%, right? But he is more or less presenting the arguments or the research findings, right? So that is what we have noticed so far. Chalo, let's try another. Now, next he is telling you, about what is he saying in this paragraph? Straight away, what does he say? There is another study which observed that boosting of pre-existing immunity from prior infection with vaccination, मतलब hybrid immunity, resulted in a transient benefit. Transient benefit मतलब the benefit is something which is subject to change, right? So sometimes it can be little to no long-term increase, right? So the benefit that you get from hybrid immunity, right? There's a research which says that it is not 100%, right? Sometimes it changes, it can be little to no, right? So little to no long-term increase in the cellular immune memory, right? Now, what is this titer? Titer is nothing else but, a method of, it's a way of measuring the antibodies, the presence of antibodies in a certain sample. Okay, so what is the purpose of this paragraph? He is trying to point out the fact that like in every other field of science, the research findings which is just quoted, they are not 100% sure. There's also research which says that the result may be subject to change. It is not 100% set in stone. ठीक है, right? So next paragraph पढ़ो, you will be able to understand the author's stand. He is taking definitely what we call a scientific stand, point of view, right? Asserting but also accepting, right, and open to views. What does he say here? Right, there's a growing body of evidence and protection. There's an evidence that protection from natural immunity can be potent, right? But however, scientific consensus about the exact strength or durability of the natural immunity post natural infection is not known. So how long does it last? We do not know. Also, the strength and durability of natural immunity might not be uniform and might vary. So what is the crux of this idea? Is telling you that yes, infection provides some amount of natural immunity. It can be quite strong, and if it is added on with vaccines, it will definitely help. But then this natural immunity is, though powerful, we do not know about it 100%. How long does it last? How strong is it? We do not know. And it can vary, right, from people to people, depending on the nature and depending on the severity of disease. So in short, the results that we have been seeing till now so far, they are not 100%. Okay, right? I hope everybody understands, right? So if you notice, he keeps on adding pieces of evidence after evidence in each slide. Everybody has read it, I hope. All clear? Next slide. Right. So in this slide, if you notice, the author would be quoting doctors and telling you about the different levels of response. Right. Particular अपने आप you'll be able to understand. Let's see what it is. So this paragraph again adds one more thing. देखो, he was telling you that देखो, infection hybrid immunity provides protection, right? He keeps on adding to it, and also the amount of the type of vaccine given also matters. He also, in between previous slide he was telling you that natural immunity after infection is variable. It changes according to situation, according to various factors, right? So antibody levels after recovering from infections, right, it is like it changes, and those at the lower end of the spectrum might be more susceptible to reinfections. So there might be reinfection, right? Those who do not have this, the the response, the protection, natural immunity, if it is lower, it might be susceptible to reinfections. The person might be susceptible to reinfections. But the finding is, in all cases, after a single vaccine in people who have recovered from COVID-19, antibodies skyrocket up, including those that neutralize variants of concern. Right. Now, after looking at another strand, he is coming back to the same point. Right, he's coming back to the same point after even, So in short, what the author is doing here is he is collecting different kind of researches and different kinds of, let's say, different kinds of research, different kinds of studies, and he's trying to derive a common point from it. Okay, everybody's read it. Next paragraph, let's see. Right. Now, next point he is looking at is different types of immunity would protect against potential variants. Abhi tak he was speaking about how immunity, different types of immunity protects against the disease. Now he is looking at specific, immunity and how it protects against different variants. Okay. And for this, they did a certain kind of an experiment. What they did was they modified the coronavirus spike protein. What is spike protein? Spike protein is a part of the virus. It's a technical term, right? It is like spikes, right? So there are those, it will be like spikes. It is basically something which is used to infiltrate, right? And it's used to cause infiltration. So spike protein is a part of the virus, and it is what the virus uses to infiltrate the body, right? So they modified the spike protein such that it contained 20 naturally occurring mutations. So to find out the protection against variants, they made it mutated. Okay, right. And the modified spike protein was tested against antibodies, right? Antibodies belonging to three groups, right? Fully vaccination, right? No vaccination, but infection, and people with hybrid immunity. And they found that, what was the finding? The modified spike proteins were able to evade the antibodies from the first two groups, but not antibodies from people with hybrid immunity. And this study is posted. So, in short, this is also telling you the same point, but in another field. That is, hybrid immunity protects against variants, right? Natural immunity or immunity from vaccination may not protect you from variants, right? But hybrid immunity protects you from variants, right? So, Prasanna, yes, another experiment supporting hybrid immunity, but this time hybrid immunity is protection against not the disease generally, but variants also. Not just against COVID-19 generally, but against possible variants. Okay, everybody is ready, I hope. Okay, chalo, let's look at the next slide. Right. Now, this is again here the author is quoting a particular, a particular authority, right? Right. Because of this, if you notice, a result of this finding, what is the result of this finding? I mean, this study prompts you to one thing. That is, even if you have been infection, right? If you have been infected earlier and if you are unvaccinated, you are likely to be reinfected. But if you have been infected and if you have recovered and if you get vaccinated, it gives you a lot more of protection. Okay, everybody has read this, right? So, because of all the results, the Center for Disease Control published a study in the report where they showed that unvaccinated people without previous infections are twice likely to be reinfected compared with vaccinated people with prior infection, which means if you are vaccinated and if you have been infected earlier, you are protected, right? More or less 100% to nahi hai, right? So, this is this is a reason for people who have had COVID, right? Please get vaccinated. So, even if you have been naturally provided immunity, right? Vaccine, hybrid immunity would definitely give you more, protection. Okay. Next paragraph, let's see. He is trying to explore the reasons. The advantage from hybrid immunity arises mostly from memory B cells. Right. So what is it telling you? That antibodies जो है वो खत्म हो जाता है if you're reading it, antibodies after some time, right? Whether it is because of infection or vaccination, antibodies they decline after a short time. But memory B cells which evolve in the lymph nodes. Lymph node is a part of the, there are many lymph nodes in the body. It's different parts of the body, right? So B cells, it's because of B cells that hybrid immunity arises, right? So when people who recovered from COVID are re-exposed to the spike protein, the memory B cells are capable of churning out highly potent antibodies. So देखो antibodies अपने आप by themselves they decline. But if in the case of hybrid immunity, what happens is, in the case of hybrid immunity, what happens is memory B cells are produced, and memory B cells they are capable of producing, very powerful antibodies. Okay, Vicky, morbid is not always dead. Morbid, देखो morbidity and mortality. देखो morbidity is related to death, right? Morbid can also mean something which is so frightening that it freezes you, वो भी हो सकता है, right? So connected to death, morbidity and mortality, right? So they are in the scientific terms, right, used similarly here. So morbid, connected to death, right, can also mean something which is very frightening, right? Something which is very dark, frightening, like death, उसकी तरह भी हो सकता है, ठीक है? So it's not exactly death, but something which reminds you of death, right, which is like death. ठीक है, everybody has read it. So what is the hybrid immunity का जो, the point is, what is it? It's because of memory T cells. It's because of memory B cells. So memory B cells, they get triggered right after vaccination. ठीक है, all clear? Let's read the last paragraph. अच्छा, here he is telling you again another addition, right? Memory, he tells you in the previous slide that it is the memory B cells which make a difference, but he tells you now that the memory B cells which are triggered by infection and those triggered by vaccination, right, as well as the antibodies they make might also underlie. So this also tells you, see, nothing is 100% sure here. What is he telling you? Pehle he tells you that it's because of memory B cells, but it is not that memory B cells is produced only in hybrid immunity. It is triggered by vaccination, it is triggered by infection also, right? So it is also because as it's the it might be the difference in the memory B cells which are triggered. So pehle what did you say previous slide? I'll just show it to you for a second so that you understand, right? So the advantage arises mostly from memory B cells, but then it is not that memory B cells are not produced in vaccination or infection. They are also produced, but it is different. What exactly is the difference? Let's see, not clear, right? Infection and vaccination expose the spike protein to the immune system in vastly different ways, right? So it's the different reaction to the body, right? But tell me one thing, has he been able to explain clearly what is the reason, or is it more like indicative only? Now, next, right, the next kind of, if you notice, the next study that the coach has written here directly, I hope everybody is understanding it, right? Everybody is able to understand this. So, they isolated numbers of hundreds of memory B cells from people at various points after infection and vaccination. What did they find? Right, they found that unlike after full vaccination, antibodies produced by natural infection continued to grow in potency and their breadth after variants for a year after infection. This is important. If you notice, right, antibodies which are produced by natural infection, it continues to grow, right? So according to nature, unlike after vaccination, the memory B cells formed after infection are more likely to make antibodies, right? So it is, everything is in the realm of guess, it's in the realm of estimation, right? So nothing can be pinpointed. The idea is that B cells, memory B cells make a difference, we know, but how exactly, not clear, because memory B cells seem to be produced in all cases, sometimes differently, right? But एक चीज तो clear है, right? Natural infection provides more protection. Natural immunity provides more protection than vaccine protection, right? And of the two, immunity, by hybrid is probably the more powerful of the three, of all the three, right? So not clearly explained, right? Now, I would like everybody to also look at the last paragraph. This is the last paragraph. What does he say? But two studies have found that memory B cells in fully vaccinated people without prior infection are growing in number and gaining mutations up to 12 per week after the second dose, which allows the B cells to recognize and neutralize variants. What is the relevance of this line? So there are two other studies which found that the memory cells in vaccinated people, right, without prior infection. So that means those who have not been infected, right, but still vaccinated, in be the memory B cells are still growing. So nothing is 100% sure, right? Nothing is 100% sure. Everybody is clear with this, I hope. All clear, right? Now, so what is the style of writing? The author does not commit to one thing, right? He quotes different, studies, right? Most of the studies point to one direction. There are some which point in another direction, right? But like a nor like a scientist, right, like a scientist, the way they generally progress, he is open to different schools of thought. He is open to different opinions. There's nothing fixed, right? So that is what is the case, right? So in short, it's like what is given you here is nothing else but a conglomeration, or let's say a collection of all studies. Okay, now let's try to answer the question. Which of the following is likely to provide the maximum protection against this disease? Be very careful, right? This question is very tricky. Question asked is likely to provide. The author himself is not sure, right? But likely means सबसे ज़्यादा chances किसका है? Of course, he quotes a lot of studies, but maximum किसकी तरफ point करता है? Okay, with this is no, this is not just change it, right? With this should be Pfizer, otherwise it will make इसको थोड़ा change कर दो, right? Vaccination with AstraZeneca post infection, right? Vaccination with Pfizer post infection, vaccination with any of Pfizer or AstraZeneca after infection, and vaccination with any of the disease before infection. Which is the best answer? Okay, why are we saying, okay, many of you, some are saying two. Okay, एक मिनट बताओ, यहाँ एक चीज देखो, it is okay, some are different answers, people are giving different answers, 1 2 3, okay, let's see, majority are saying 3, some are saying 2 also. एक बार बताओ, prior to infection से पहले vaccinate कैसे करोगे? I mean, is it logically, is it possible? अच्छा, मैं बीमार होने वाला हूँ, मुझे इन्फेक्ट कैसे पता चलेगा बीमार होने वाले? जानबूझ के बीमार कराओगे उसको, राइट? सो दिस इज समथिंग व्हिच इज लाइक not at all feasible. What the authors, what can happen is, see, the vaccination, I mean, vaccination with any of Pfizer or AstraZeneca just prior to infection, this is something which is beyond the scope of the passage. Whatever that we studied, it was वैक्सीनेशन पोस्ट इन्फेक्शन, वैक्सीनेशन बिफोर इन्फेक्शन वो पैसेज में स्टडीड नहीं है, राइट? बिकॉज आई मीन इट वुड बी ओनली बाय एक्सीडेंटल, अदरवाइज कैसे पता चलेगा, राइट? इसको somebody has been vaccinated, उसके बाद वो बीमार पड़ा, that would be an accident, right? You cannot do a study, you cannot actually make it, cause it to happen. So 2 cannot be the answer, right? Why? Okay, why not A? अच्छा, एक बार बताओ, if you notice, there was a line, there was a paragraph, if you remember, where he says, देखो, second slide to be exact, देखो, in short, hybrid immunity, this is what this first slide says, hybrid immunity offers protection than just infection or full vaccination alone. But next slide, hybrid protection may be, right, it matters which one do you take. Pfizer से आया हुआ hybrid immunity, it gives you how much, right? It is like 2 times. But with AstraZeneca, what is it? It is basically what? It is threefold. Okay, so which is likely to protect more? AstraZeneca, right? So if you notice, the best point, the best answer is C. Vaccination with AstraZeneca post infection, because AstraZeneca and Pfizer के protection जो है वो अलग अलग है. एक में Pfizer में it is 2 times, in AstraZeneca it is 3 times, and both the effects after infection. ठीक है? So everybody got the point? Everybody understood, I hope, right? So try to eliminate options which are irrelevant. For example, prior to infection, it's not within the scope of this passage, right? ठीक है, एक और क्वेश्चन है, विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग बेस्ट डिस्क्राइब्स द नॉलेज दैट वी करेंटली हैव अबाउट हाइब्रिड इम्यूनिटी. सो हाइब्रिड इम्यूनिटी के बारे में व्हाट नॉलेज, हाउ डू यू डिस्क्राइब द नॉलेज गोइंग ऑन, the knowledge that we have. So how do you describe the knowledge that we have about hybrid immunity? Go slow, right, and find out what is the answer. The kind of knowledge that we have about hybrid immunity, right? So what is it like? Vicky is saying B. Aditya Kumar also saying answer is B. Right. Why not one sketchy with little or no evidence? Because the problem here is no evidence. Evidence to hai. Right. The problem is with this word evidence. You can say sketchy. Sketchy matlab clear nahi hai. Right. It is not in depth. That you can say. There's nothing wrong with sketchy, but the problem is no evidence. ठीक है, best answer is B, supported by some evidence but not 100% foolproof. So that is what we have. Right now, 3 is too extreme, strong enough to recommend a hybrid recommend hybrid immunity as a preventive measure. मतलब strong enough to recommend. How will you recommend hybrid immunity? हाइब्रिड इम्यूनिटी के लिए क्या करना पड़ेगा, किसी को बीमार करवाना पड़ेगा, फिर उसके बाद उसको इंजेक्शन दो. सो दैट इज समथिंग व्हिच इज, दिस इज नॉट इवन लॉजिकली वैलिड, राइट. आई होप एवरीबॉडी अंडरस्टूड दिस लास्ट वन, लाइक द प्रोवर्बियल ब्लाइंड मैन विद द एलिफेंट. ये क्यों नहीं हो सकता, राइट? व्हाई कांट इट बी 4? एवरीबॉडी मार्क बी. व्हाई कांट इट बी 4? Blind men क्या है? Everybody, right? All the men were blind, so everybody thought that whatever they were thinking were correct, right? The problem with 4 is that in the blind men, each of them will hold the rigid view. They will not be willing to, they are not willing to, let's say, they are not open to different schools of thought. But in the paragraph, in the passage, the author cites a lot of evidence. Nobody says, the author cites a lot of studies. Nobody says that we are correct, everybody else is wrong, right? So this is like too rigid to be the answer. Okay. Last question. Why is there a decline in the number of antibodies in those who are vaccinated but without pre-infection? This is a very interesting question. Antibodies vaccination के बाद, right, the decline in the number of antibodies in those who are vaccinated but without pre-infection. So इनमें antibodies कम क्यों होता है? इसका आंसर जो है, if you look at it, right, so you will find that I'll show you a part where the, I'll show you the part where it is taken from. Just a second, I'll show you the part where it is taken from. Okay. In fact, it is difficult to point out one part. You can actually look at it from different perspectives. I mean, you'll have to look at the entire paragraph. So, why is the number of antibodies declining in people who are vaccinated but without pre-infection? This is okay. Best answer. The reason is beyond the realms of science. Too extreme है. Beyond the realms of science मतलब science cannot find it out. अभी तक नहीं मिला. Does it mean that आगे भी नहीं मिलेगा? So this is too extreme. The reason is not mentioned clearly in the passage because it is not clear so far. So the best answer is 3. ठीक है? Right. So the best answer is 3. Memory B cells are more potent because of pre-infection. Does it mean that is that the reason why the number of antibodies decline? Right. देखो, if you notice, those who are vaccinated but without pre-infection, why? Is it because the memory cells are more potent? No. Memory cells किसमें ज्यादा strong होता है? those who have been pre-infected, can this be the reason for one? No, this is the opposite, right? So second thing is something which is it explains the reason of the opposite. Memory B cells are more potent because of pre-infection. Here we are speaking about without pre-infection, so this cannot explain. Right. Now, sentence one. Two studies have found that memory B cells in the fully vaccinated people without prior vaccination are growing in number. This is also the opposite point. So, it does not give you the answer to the question why. The answer is something which is yet to be discovered. The answer is something which is yet to be discovered. Okay. So, Vicky, correct. 1 and 2 are reasons for stronger immunity in pre-infected people. Correct. And the question asked is about those without pre-infection. So, not relevant. So, this is again a trick that you have to always understand. Exam में होता है, right? See, if you notice, 1 and 2 are not wrong. Passage में ये indicated है, right? But then the question asked is not related to 1 and 2. So whatever is correct or is given in the passage may not always be the answer. It will have to also answer the question. Okay, clear? So Vicky understood, explained it clearly. Well, so the best answer is 3. Okay, right. So with that, we come to the end of the session. Before we end, just take a quick look at the schedule. The entire week schedule is this, and these are the batches which are still open. There is this 2 months crash course for those who are looking for a longer version. You can think of joining this course also, right? 2022. And people who are targeting other exams, you can also think of taking up this course, right? So these are your teachers, people who take your classes, and all of you know that the online classroom program, there are two different tracks, two different courses. One targeting this year. This year is almost going to an end, and the other one targeting next year, right? Okay, right. So let's see, right? Okay, all of you are saying that we should try questions after the passage. हाँ करेंगे, right? The only problem is questions banana. It takes a lot of effort, right? So only problem is when I make questions, एक तो 3-4 से ज़्यादा नहीं बना पाएंगे. If I take, it would ideal would be 5-6, but 5-6 questions banana will take a lot of effort. So anyway, a lot of effort, especially keeping in mind when I have other classes. If I do not have other classes, definitely I will make questions like this. Okay, right? So questions I'll try to make as far as possible, right? Provided I have the free time. Anyway, that we will work out, no issue. Okay, so that is it for today. I'll meet you again tomorrow the same time. And all of you know that this session does not happen on Tuesdays, right? So we will meet tomorrow, but not on Tuesday. So that's it, everybody. Thank you. Have a nice day.